Hi guys, I just wanted to talk today a little bit about why UX is not visual design and how visual design fits into UX. So, a lot of times when I say I'm a designer, people will be like, awesome, and they give me something and they want me to do the visual design on it. But that's not what I do. And so, I just want to explain a little bit what that's about. Basically, visual design is a component of user experience design. But I think that Steve Jobs actually has a quote that fits into this really well. So I'm going to read it to you guys. He says, most people may make the mistake of thinking design is what it looks like. People think it's the veneer, that the designers are handed this box and told, make this look good. That's not what we think design is. It's not what it looks like and feels like. Design is just how it works. And that's a Steve Jobs quote. So I definitely feel like I relate to this quote. If you have a product, an application, a website, even the way that your service is set up in an in-person location and it doesn't work, it's not designed well. It can look really pretty and it can look amazing, but if it's not working, it wasn't designed. And I kind of like to equate user experience design to a house where if your foundation is working really well, you're going to be able to sell that house. But if your foundation is cracked and it's not working very well, then what ends up happening is you could repaint it, you could even varnish the walls and make everything look good, but you're never going to be able to sell the house if the actual foundation isn't working. So, does it work? Then it has good design. If it doesn't work, then it's not well designed. Does it look pretty? Awesome if it looks pretty, but what I'm more concerned with is let's make sure it works first. And then from there, we can always reskin it. We could reskin your website. And then when, visual design for it becomes outdated, we can reskin it again. But is the architecture and the structure actually there? That's what I'm most concerned about because part of my business is I really want to make sure that I'm making sustainable products that are going to last a while and that are actually going to be easy to use and help people. I've also put a diagram together about how visual design fits into user experience. Really simple diagram, but basically I see it like this. So visual design is in user experience, but visual design is not user experience. And I'm also going to talk a little bit about UI. So for those of you that don't know, UI stands for user interface. User interface is just the actual interface that you're using for an application. It's usually used for websites or mobile applications. And the user interface, if you see that as a job description or somebody is trying to hire a user interface designer, in my opinion, they're trying to hire a visual designer. So UI and visual design kind of go together. There's little differences between them. A visual designer could obviously be coming from a graphic design background and they're creating posters or something, but those two go really close together. And then over here, a user experience designer or UX designer is actually looking across the entire business of all the things that are working together. And I could go into like information architecture or interaction design and how that fits into user experience, but I just want to keep this relatively simple and make sure that I'm differentiating a visual design or a UI designer from a UX designer because they're different things. They work together. You can have somebody that does both. I always say like, yes, I can do visuals, but I'm not the top visual designer out there. There's a lot of way more amazing visual designers out there, and that's not the thing that like I excel at. So I'm not going to try to sell myself as a visual designer. And I love working with really amazing visual designers because they make things look so beautiful. And some visual designers also have the ability to incorporate the UX. A really good visual designer, I actually met this guy that worked at Disney, and he was an amazing visual designer. He basically took all the information that the UX designer had put together from research and understanding customers, and he took all of that data and research and basically had that influence his visual design. So he looked at okay, this is kind of the persona that is going to use this application. What colors, what fonts, what look and feel should I put together that supports the user experience? And that to me is an awesome visual designer. Um, when you're working collaboratively like that with a really amazing visual designer and UX designer, that's the sweet spot. That's when you're really making things have a wonderful user experience. So um, yeah, just if you have any questions about the difference between visual design and UX design, I'll also say that when companies come to me, they're usually coming to me for actual implementation because that's how people think, right? They hear, okay, I need to get a website or I need to get this mocked up or put together. And I always like to take a step back and just say, okay, let's do this as a two-phase approach. The first phase is making sure that you have your focus together, that you have your vision really nailed in, and that then we can create a research strategy around those things. And only after have we done some research and understood where people are coming from, then we can work on the actual implementation, which would include the design of it or getting it developed or coming up with an action plan that actually corresponds back to the research. So it's really a two-phased approach. I think most agencies try to sell it as a bundle, but if you don't have the research first to back what it is that you're doing, then you're kind of just guessing in the dark, in my opinion. So you can do that, and you can definitely test that, but it's not going to come from a research-based decision-making process. So I would rather be able to understand where customers are coming from first and then be able to apply it to everything else, including the visuals. So, conclusion of this whole thing is UX design includes visual design, but user experience design is not visual design, and user experience design is not user interface design.